Chapter 2471, Seeing is Believing, 3. In the blink of an eye, Chu Chenxi had raised the child such that she could run around and even call Chu Chenxi mom and Chi Minlan grandma. Seeing that her daughter had truly put her past behind her and that Chu Chenxi wouldn't be too sad even if she were to leave because she had the company of this child, Chi Minlan very quickly lost her will to live and left on the very same night as Chu Qin. Upon finding out about this situation, Chu Chenxi had no response at all. She simply said that it was such a coincidence that both of them had passed away on the same night. Yes, it had truly been a coincidence. But there were some who wanted to watch a good show and thus stirred up rumors, making it seem as though it had been more than a coincidence. However, Chu Chenxi denied and ignored everything and simply conducted a funeral for Chi Minlan. Even though Chu Qin was her father, Chu Chenxi did not attend his funeral. Why? Chu Qin was Chu Chenxi's father, but wasn't Chi Minlan Chu Chenxi's mother? Even if she didn't return to Pingcheng to help out, Chu Qin would still have his son and grandson to mourn for him, at the very least. If Chu Chenxi didn't care about Chi Minlan, there wouldn't be anyone who would conduct Chi Minlan's funeral. Besides, hadn't Chu Qin always favored his son and grandson instead of his daughter? What was the point of Chu Chenxi going then? Should Chu Qin have to see his most hated daughter even in death? Not turning up was being filial to him. No one could rebuke Chu Chenxi when she put it in this way. After all, Chu Chenxi had only spoken the truth. Chu Chenxi had not even turned up for Chu Qin's funeral. Of course, there was no way Chu Chenxi would treat his mistress' family like her kin after his death either. Chu Qin had been broke, but Chi Minlan had left behind quite a substantial sum of money for Chu Chenxi. In the end, Chu Chenxi had taken both her child and money and left Modu. No one knew where Chu Chenxi had moved to. That was why the mistress family couldn't even contact her stepdaughter, Chu Chenxi, for help when she ran out of money since she had no idea where to find Chu Chenxi. After learning of the situation, Zai Hua still maintained her silence and never mentioned Chu Chenxi in front of Jiao Nan. Even though nothing had happened in the 3 years while Zai Sheng had been married to Chu Chenxi, it remained a fact that Chu Chenxi was Zai Sheng's first wife. However, as Zai Sheng's sister, Zai Hua was pleased that Chu Chenxi was smart enough not to disrupt Zai Sheng's life now after learning that nothing good would come after cheating on Zai Sheng. Although she was concerned about Zai Sheng's matters, Zai Hua could not care less about Wei Dai, who had had no choice but to give up on settling down in Pingcheng and had returned to his hometown. She only cared about 2 points. Firstly, Wei Dai would never get to appear in front of her in the future. Secondly, Wei Dai would never have the chance to harass Jia again. Whether Wei Dai was living well or not was none of the Zai family's business. The Wei family had to deal with it themselves. At the thought of that, Zai Hua's expression stiffened and her tone was no longer as light as before. "Sister Zai Hua, what's wrong? Are you really angry at me because of Jia's matters?" Jiao Nan had known all along that Zai Hua's so-called anger was no more than a joke. That was why she had not treated her seriously. But the moment Zai Hua's expression changed, Jiao Nan could sense that something was amiss. Zai Hua brushed her hair back. "It's nothing. I just thought of a problem in my business and was out of it for a while. Since Jia has already decided to go down your path, I'll need to make more money, much more than the Zhu family's wealth. Otherwise, how else will she be able to continue with her charitable actions? It's really difficult being a good mom." Jiao Nan was too embarrassed to tell her that Jia meant to help her out. That included managing the finances for the charitable activities. In other words, if Jia needed any money, she could simply let her know. As a mother, Zai Hua wouldn't even have a chance to act as an ATM to her daughter. Thinking about Zai Hua's temper, Jiao Nan wisely chose not to let Zai Hua know about this at that moment. She would eventually realize that sooner or later. Even letting her know a few days later would mean a few more days of peace for Zai Hua. "Oh right, have you guys picked out a primary school for the triplets? Don't delay it too much. Otherwise, you guys might not even make a decision before school starts. There's no hurry. Xiao Nan felt more assured talking about her own children. We still have 2 years to pick one out. They'll still have to sit for a test after that. It's not so easy. It's easy. Miaojing disagreed. Our triplets are so smart. If they can't even get into a school of their choice, other children had better not think of entering. Nan, being excessively humble is also prideful. Miaojing wasn't being proud, but not only were their 3 children smart and inquisitive, but they also grew up in a different environment with a mom like Xiao Nan. With the country's development, it was no longer uncommon to see foreigners with blue eyes and blonde hair all over the country. Of course, central areas like the capital were not spared. Every time they met foreigners on the streets, the 3 children were especially bold and would run up to them to chat with them. They were so fluent that it stunned even passers-by. They were all grown up, but they couldn't even understand what a 5-year-old was saying. How embarrassing! That was when a lot of people realized that the Zai family's 3 children were just as fluent in English as they were in Mandarin. They had no difficulties communicating with foreigners. No one doubted that the 3 children would be able to find their way around even if they were left on the streets overseas. They were impressive indeed. It was even more apparent since they were in awe of a 5-year-old child. Everyone couldn't help but ask Miaojing whom the Zai family had hired to teach their 3 children. It seemed like the teacher had high standards and was much better than average ones. At that time, Miaojing had proudly announced to her neighbors that they hadn't even hired a foreign language teacher. It was their mother, Xiao Nan, who had taught the children English. In fact, when the triplets had met foreigners asking for directions when they were only 3, they had already been able to use their chubby little hands to point them in the right direction. At that time, the triplets had still been young and no one had witnessed that, so Miaojing hadn't bothered to explain to her neighbors just how smart and excellent her 3 grandchildren were. Chapter 2472, Unable to Say, 1. After all, seeing was believing. Now that they had personally witnessed it, Miaojing finally proved to everyone just how outstanding the 3 children were. There was not a single school that wouldn't admit their children, not even international kindergartens. In fact, there were 2 international kindergartens that had been desperate for the triplets to become their students because of how outstanding they were when they were just 3 years old. While others fought to get into top schools, her grandchildren could simply take their pick. Humph! Did they finally understand why the Zai family was humble and never liked to brag? All credit went to the children's mother for bringing up such outstanding children. Apart from inheriting the Zhu family's assets, Nan had many good points of her own. They had never needed the Zhu family's assets to reflect Xiao Nan's worth. What was Miaojing most proud of in the past few years? There were 2 things. Firstly, boasting about how outstanding and excellent the 4 children of the Zai family were. After talking about the 3 children, she had to talk about Jiajia, who was a student of Peking University. Secondly, it was all thanks to her daughter-in-law, Xiao Nan, that her 4 grandchildren were all so smart and intelligent. Even Jiajia, the Peking University student, was nurtured by her daughter-in-law. Although Jiajia had not come up top in her cohort, she had still come in second and had even scored full marks in English. It was her daughter-in-law, Xiao Nan, who had guided her. Her daughter-in-law was truly a great English teacher. Her 4 grandchildren were proof of that. Amazing! The audience was also helpless at how Miaojing praised her daughter-in-law endlessly. Initially, no one had taken Miaojing's words to heart when she had first praised her daughter-in-law in this manner. After all, everyone knew that kids could grow up astray no matter how well behaved they were while they were still young. But now, not only had the triplets not gone astray, but Jiajia, who had gained entry to Peking University, hadn't either. Alright, was Xiao Nan the one who had raised these 4 brilliant children? She was amazing. So, could Xiao Nan help teach their children as well? Their children weren't doing very well in English. Miao Jing laughed. She was sorry, but her grandchildren were only 5. They were still young and couldn't be apart from their mother. Nan Nan was still busy. Her neighbors had better get foreign language teachers. After all, they had much higher educational qualifications. If they were to compare their husbands, she would win. If they were to compare their sons, she would win. If they were to compare their grandsons, she would win. If they wanted to compare their daughters-in-law, she was sorry, but she would still win. As the biggest winner in life, Miao Jing felt as though she was getting more energetic by the day. Initially, no one had believed that Jiao Nan was as good as Miao Jing had described her to be. But even if Jiajia's college entrance examination results had been a coincidence, it couldn't be a coincidence that the triplets were so outstanding as well. It was impossible that the school teachers alone had nurtured them in this way. It wasn't as though the Zai family's 3 children were the only ones in that school. But there were no other students who were as brilliant as the triplets. Since there was no difference in the school they attended and the teachers they had, the only difference had to be having a father like Zai Sheng and a mother like Jiao Nan. Everyone could see the situations of the 4 children as clear as day. If they still denied it, they would probably become laughingstocks. In other words, if Jiao Nan was truly capable, they could simply pay Jiao Nan to teach their own children as well. To be honest, it was their money, so why couldn't they give it to Jiao Nan? What mattered was that the person who took their money would be able to help their children. Unfortunately, no matter how much they wanted Jiao Nan to help their children, Miao Jing didn't even have any intention of asking Jiao Nan on their behalf. In fact, Miao Jing had even rejected them outright. In the very beginning, who had laughed at the Zai family for being foolish for getting a daughter-in-law like Jiao Nan? They had been the ones. Now that they knew how good Jiao Nan was, they acted like bees attracted to honey and rushed over. But the Zai family couldn't care less. There was no room for discussion on this matter. No matter how rich their families were, or how much power they wielded, they had better just look elsewhere. Jiao Nan was a mother of 3. She had enough on her hands just taking care of her own children, much less other children. Jiao Nan never wanted to take on the responsibility of teaching other families' children. She only taught her own children out of care and concern for them. Who would be so noble to neglect their own children to take care of other families' children? Only a fool would do so. Since Jiao Nan was not a teacher, no one could do anything no matter how much they wanted her to be one. They couldn't possibly kidnap Jiao Nan and force her into submission. But one day, Jiao Nan suddenly received a letter. Seeing the unfamiliar handwriting on the envelope, Jiao Nan had no idea who would have sent her such a letter. More importantly, in a technologically advanced society, there were many other ways of communication. No one really used such an old-fashioned way of communicating through snail mail anymore. Even though she had no idea who had sent her the letter, Jiao Nan couldn't help but open it to see who had contacted her through such an old-fashioned method. When she saw how the person addressed her, Jiao Nan realized that it was from another child whom she had once taken care of, Chen Feng. There was only one child in the world who addressed Jiao Nan as younger auntie. That was Chen Feng. After reading through Chen Feng's letter, Jiao Nan took out her phone and sent a message to the number on the letter. Within seconds, Jiao Nan received a reply, asking to meet Jiao Nan at a specific location and time. When Jiao Nan thought about Chen Feng, she no longer felt much. She had already let go of her grudges toward Ding Ji, let alone Chen Feng, who was innocent. When she arrived at the cafe, she caught sight of a young man who bore some resemblance to Chen Jun. Jiao Nan felt a little uneasy. Of course, that was because of Chen Jun, and not Chen Feng. Younger auntie. Chen Feng hadn't met Jiao Nan in a few years, but he had managed to recognize his favorite auntie in just one glance. Younger auntie, take a look at the menu and see what you would like to drink. Jiao Nan sighed and ordered a random drink after sitting down. Xiao Feng. Congratulations on getting into a university in the capital. It's a rare opportunity. I hope you'll cherish it. Chapter 2473, Unable to Say, 2. I understand. Chen Feng smiled bitterly. His grandparents had told him all about the resentment and grudges between those of the previous generation before he had left to live with his mom. Chen Feng knew the elderly couple had told him about their son's disgraceful past not to ruin their son's image in their grandson's heart, but because they hoped that their grandson would understand Qiao Zijin and not be led astray or cheated by Qiao Zijin. They had always felt that Qiao Zijin would never harm Chen Feng since he was her only son. But as Qiao Zijin's ex-parents-in-law, they were even clearer that Qiao Zijin was filled with warped ideas. Sometimes, she didn't even realize that she was leading Chen Feng astray and that her teaching would eventually harm him. To prevent that from happening, Father and Mother Chen had no choice but to let their grandson handle everything at such a young age. They had no other choice. They didn't have much more time to spend with their grandson, and this was the only thing they could do for him before he left. There was another thing that Father and Mother Chen were worried about. After Qiao Nan married Zai Sheng, she became the chief's wife. Even though Zai Sheng and Qiao Nan had never tried to take revenge on them, the Chen family was still afraid that it was bound to happen one day. It was the Chen family that had wronged Qiao Nan in the first place, but Chen Feng might very well try to deal with Qiao Nan under Qiao Zijin's guidance. Even a saint wouldn't be able to bear with it, much less Qiao Nan. To protect their only grandson, Father and Mother Chen had no choice but to be brutally honest with Chen Feng about the truth, even if that meant that Chen Jun's image would be entirely ruined in Chen Feng's mind. They had no other choice. Since they hadn't managed to protect their son, they had to protect their grandson, at the very least. They couldn't possibly watch their grandson dig his own grave by trying to deal with Qiao Nan. What Father and Mother Chen didn't know was that Chen Feng had always had special feelings for Qiao Nan. He felt that mothers should be like Qiao Nan and not treat him the way Qiao Zijin treated him. When he saw Qiao Nan, Chen Feng couldn't hide the envy and regret in his eyes. Why was his mother Qiao Zijin and not Qiao Nan? Auntie, thank you. You don't have to worry about me. I'm all grown up and can take care of myself well. No matter what his mother told him, he would never be influenced by her or look upon his auntie as the bad guy. Chen Feng was utterly grateful that his grandparents had been truthful with him before he had left. In these 2 years, Chen Feng had realized that his grandparents' worries weren't unfounded. As long as he was at home and not studying, the conversation between him and his mom would never stray from his auntie. But his mom had never once praised his auntie. Thankfully, he already knew about the truth. Otherwise, given his distant memories of his auntie from the past, as well as his mother's constant brainwashing, he would have started hating his auntie, feeling as though his auntie had ruined their family's happiness. Okay. Qiao Nan could only reply curtly. Qiao Nan had no idea why Chen Feng wanted to meet her today, but it didn't feel right for her to speak up first. As such, she simply waited for Chen Feng to do so. Chen Feng smiled bitterly. Was his auntie really afraid of his family because of his parents? Auntie, my mom is in Pingcheng. She won't come to the capital. You don't have to worry. He hadn't lived with Qiao Zijin for a long time. After all, he lived in the high school dormitory. They had probably lived together for no more than 3 months altogether. Perhaps, one might ask why it wouldn't even be 3 months since there were summer and winter vacations. But Chen Jun was still well and alive, and Father and Mother Chen were still taking care of Chen Jun. On weekends, Chen Feng usually didn't have the time or energy to visit them. But when it came to long vacations, he naturally headed home to visit them. Qiao Zijin had tried to stop Chen Feng from going, but Chen Feng was all grown up and was even taller and more muscular than Qiao Zijin. There was no way she could stop him. Thankfully, Chen Feng knew his limits. Besides, Father and Mother Chen had reluctantly allowed Qiao Zijin to take Chen Feng away so that he could be shielded from the rumors and grow up in a new environment without Chen Jun's influence. Father and Mother Chen were already elated that their grandson was filial enough to visit them during his holidays. Father and Mother Chen weren't even certain how long more Chen Jun would be able to live, or whether they would have good fortune and wouldn't need to send their own son off. Even when Chen Feng came to visit, Father and Mother Chen would always ask Chen Feng to watch Chen Jun from afar, not allowing him to get near. They had to take all precautions. All of the Chen family's hopes were on Chen Feng alone. Father and Mother Chen wouldn't allow anything to go wrong with their grandson. They couldn't take such a blow. Knowing that Father and Mother Chen took care of Chen Feng and took all precautions so that Chen Jun wouldn't spread that dirty disease to Chen Feng, Qiao Zijin had no choice but to let Chen Feng visit them no matter how displeased she was. But every time Chen Feng returned from visiting Chen Jun, Qiao Zijin would confirm several times that Chen Feng had indeed not touched Chen Jun or any of his things. Chen Feng knew what Qiao Zijin was afraid of. He wasn't going to gamble his youth away either. Every time he visited, Chen Feng took care of his grandparents and tried to lessen their load. Father and Mother Chen had never had any intention of letting Chen Feng touch any of Chen Jun's things. Hearing Chen Feng say that, Qiao Zijin's attitude eventually softened. As long as the Chen family didn't harm Chen Feng and he wouldn't bring anything dirty back to drag her down, there was no need for her to stop Chen Feng from being a filial son. Even while Chen Jun was in this state, Chen Feng was still willing to acknowledge Chen Jun as his father. Because of that, Qiao Zijin had all reason to believe that Chen Feng would never abandon her even when she grew old and was no longer able to take care of herself. Based on that logic, Qiao Zijin no longer tried to stop Chen Feng. After all, Chen Feng was Chen Jun's son too. The more filial Chen Feng was, the more reassured Qiao Zijin was. She no longer had to worry about her old age. Chapter 2474, Unable to Say, 3. That was why Qiao Zijin didn't put any effort into improving her relationship with her son. They had already been living together for 2 years. But their relationship was just like when Qiao Zijin had first brought Chen Feng back. In fact, they shared a rather distant relationship. Feeling that his relationship with Qiao Zijin wasn't like one between a mother and her son, Chen Feng felt depressed. He wondered if he or Qiao Zijin was more miserable. To be honest, neither of their situations was better than the others. Even though 2 years had passed, their relationship had not improved for the better. In fact, Chen Feng had probably applied for a university in the capital to keep a distance from Qiao Zijin. Based on this alone, there was no way Chen Feng would have allowed Qiao Zijin to follow him to the capital. As a student, Chen Feng could stay in the school dormitory, which would be much cheaper than renting an apartment for himself. If Qiao Zijin were to follow him, Qiao Zijin's accommodation would be a problem in itself. Upon hearing this problem, Qiao Zijin's first response was to look for Qiao Nan. Qiao Nan had already been living in the capital for so many years. Not only was she the daughter-in-law of the Zai family, but she also owned many properties under her name. There was nothing Qiao Nan lacked, especially not money. It was right to look for Qiao Nan as long as the problem could be settled with money. Hearing Qiao Zijin's words, Chen Feng remained silent but stared straight at Qiao Zijin, so much so that Qiao Zijin felt guilt creeping up. "Mom, it looks like it's quite useful to have a younger brother or sister around. Why didn't you and Dad give me a younger sibling? Actually, you're in quite good health now. You still have time to give birth to one now." Based on what his mom was saying, he wouldn't even need to attend university as long as he had a younger sibling. He could simply wait for his younger sibling to grow up and leech onto him or her for the rest of his life. Feng, how could you say that? I'm your mom. Qiao Nan's just an outsider to you. How could you favor an outsider instead of someone on your side? Wasn't she only trying to save her son money by mentioning Qiao Nan when it came to money? If she spent Qiao Nan's money, Feng would be able to save his money. She wholeheartedly thought about her son, but why couldn't he see that? She was his mom. Everything she did was for his good. Feng was still young and didn't understand how miserable it was to be without money. Feng, you have to listen to Mom on this matter. Your younger auntie's conditions are exceptionally good. She won't ever be able to finish spending her money in this lifetime. That little bit of money we take from her won't impact her in the slightest bit. Do you think your mom would ask for something beyond her capabilities? I won't ask her to die just so I can live. She thought that Chen Feng had no understanding of Jiao Nan's situation and didn't know that Jiao Nan wouldn't even blink with that sum of money gone. So, why should she help Jiao Nan save money? She couldn't bring this wealth with her when she died. It was better to spend it all while she was still alive. If she helped Jiao Nan spend it, Jiao Nan would be at less of a loss and could live a better life in her next lifetime. What was wrong with that? I'm living in the dormitory. Chen Feng didn't try to rebuke her. He knew that his mom's mind would never change even though he had all the reasons. That was what his grandparents had told him. In the past years, Chen Feng had personally witnessed several times just how special his mom, Xiao Zijin, was. Do as you wish. Just settle your own matters if you really want to go to the capital. Are you really agreeing to let me follow you to the capital? Although Xiao Zijin hardly spent any time with her son over the past 2 years, she was no longer willing to be apart from him. To put it bluntly, Chen Feng was going to the capital for his studies. But what if he decided that he no longer wanted to return to Pingcheng after graduating? To her, her home was wherever her son was. Of course, she would simply follow her son back if he decided that he no longer wanted to live in the capital, even if it would be harder for her. This matter was easy to resolve. I already said that you're a grown person. No one can stop you from doing what you want. Suit yourself. You know my situation. Mom, if you think that you'll be able to survive in the capital, you can go ahead. I'll visit you during my vacations. Moving to the capital and settling there wasn't something one could do just through talk alone. Chen Feng had repeatedly heard about how difficult it was to be a Beijing drifter. His mother might have an average family background, but she had good fortune. She had never needed to work hard in her whole life. Everything had come to her so easily and naturally. That was why she never ever stopped to think that it wouldn't be so easy to do so. His grandparents had already told him that his younger auntie was no longer the same person as before. His mom's ideas meant nothing. What was important was his younger auntie's attitude. She had married an impressive husband and had even given the Zai family 2 sons and a daughter. In that way, Xiao Nan had much better fortune than Xiao Zijin. Even a fool had to come to his senses one day. With her 3 children, Xiao Nan had the entire world. There was no need for her to even consider the existence of a mere Xiao Zijin. That was why the relationship between Xiao Zijin and Xiao Nan had changed a long time ago. No matter how much of a fuss Xiao Zijin kicked up, that would be her own business. Chen Feng wasn't going to join in and dig a grave for her. That way, Xiao Nan wouldn't blame him for Xiao Zijin's nonsense either. After understanding that, Father and Mother Chen told Chen Feng that no one would be able to stop Xiao Zijin if she wanted to cause trouble for Xiao Nan and dig her own grave. All Chen Feng needed to do was to express his attitude that he would never stand on Xiao Zijin's side to bully Xiao Nan. Then, Chen Feng only had to live his own life while Xiao Zijin did whatever she wanted to Xiao Nan. Father and Mother Chen had been absolutely right about their ex-daughter-in-law, Xiao Zijin. This meant that her image in Chen Feng's mind was utterly destroyed. Chapter 2475, Mushy, 1. As such, Chen Feng couldn't even be bothered to waste his breath on Xiao Zijin. She could do whatever she wanted. He wouldn't try to stop her. But now that Chen Feng was no longer trying to stop her, Xiao Zijin felt a little uneasy. Since when had Feng been this way? Xiao Zijin didn't suffer from Alzheimer's and knew that Chen Feng preferred his aunt, Xiao Nan, to his own mother. It was obvious that she wanted Xiao Nan to support her if she were to live in the capital. But Chen Feng had shown no response at all. What did that mean? Something seemed amiss. Not caring about how Xiao Zijin was now in a dilemma, Chen Feng returned to his room and packed his belongings, getting ready to move to the capital for his studies. It was only at the last minute when Chen Feng was about to purchase 2 tickets that Jiao Zijin suddenly regretted it. Feng, you don't have to buy my ticket. I won't be going to the capital. Actually, I think it'll be better for me to remain here. I'm familiar with the surroundings here. But Feng, are you going to remain in the capital to establish your career, or? I'll return to Pingcheng. If his grandparents were still alive at that time, he would bring them over and live with them. Of course, given his father's situation, it seemed like his father would no longer be around by the time he graduated. That was why Chen Feng could tell Jiao Zijin with certainty that he would return to Pingcheng and that she had no reason to worry. Alright then. Feng, remember to give me a call once you reach your school safely. And remember to study hard. Only with good results will you be able to find a good job in Pingcheng. Mom will be waiting for you at home. Thankfully, Jiao Zijin seemed to have regained her senses because of her son, Chen Feng, and could even sensibly remind Chen Feng to study hard to prove his worth. If she were in his position, Jiao Zijin would definitely say that it was useless to work hard. Anyway, she had an impressive sister like Jiao Nan. With Jiao Nan around, she could simply lie around and wait to be fed since Jiao Nan was so capable. Oh right, you won't have to worry about having any trouble finding a job after graduating. We have your younger auntie. There's nothing we won't be able to resolve. Chen Feng had just thought of praising Jiao Zijin for being clear-headed. Who would have known that Jiao Zijin's next words would strike like lightning? Chen Feng, who had just been provoked by Jiao Zijin, couldn't help but admit that this woman in front of him was his mom indeed. He had no other choice. There were some things he should just let go of after hearing. It would be too tiring responding to everything she said. After coming to a consensus, Chen Feng got on the bus to the capital with his admission notice. After a long day of travel, he finally arrived in the capital. Chen Feng had not met Jiao Nan, and neither had he had any contact with her throughout the past 2 years. But when Chen Feng arrived in the capital, he couldn't help but want to meet Jiao Nan since they were living in the same city. Thankfully, although Jiao Zijin didn't have Jiao Nan's address and couldn't contact Jiao Nan, she knew Jiao Nan's address at the very least. Chen Feng hadn't even needed to ask Jiao Zijin before he received Jiao Nan's address. Feng, remember to find your younger auntie here if you have any problems you can't solve. Jiao Zijin had been to the capital. It wasn't Jiao Zijin's first time trying to leech on Jiao Nan to stay in the capital. She still remembered how she had been to the capital before the Zhu family's lawsuit had come to an end. Although this had happened several years ago, there was no way she would forget about this matter no matter how bad her memory was. As such, the moment she finished speaking to Chen Feng, Jiao Zijin chose to have some time to herself. But the thought of the past upset her. Previous incidents proved that her younger sister, Jiao Nan, was exceptionally vicious. Even when she had been critically ill and had been hospitalized, Jiao Nan had never even visited her, much less footed the bill for her. Every time Jiao Zijin went to the capital, she intended to take advantage of Jiao Nan. Then, she would return home with a sum of money to spend. If not for the 50,000 yuan that Wang Yang had given her, Jiao Zijin would have returned home even poorer. Not only had she not earned any money, but she had even spent her own money. Would Jiao Nan really agree to fork out money for her to rent an apartment or give her a living allowance if she were to go to the capital? It was too dangerous. What if Jiao Nan decided to get revenge on them if she were to kick up a fuss at the Zai family's house and force Jiao Nan to agree to her terms? It didn't matter to her. She didn't think she stood to lose anything no matter how much Jiao Nan tried to get back at her. But Jiao Zijin had a weakness, her son, Chen Feng. She wasn't afraid of what Jiao Nan would do to her, but if Jiao Nan were to try to deal with Chen Feng, his future might very well be ruined. Of course, Jiao Zijin had to consider the dire consequences before acting rashly. Then, Jiao Zijin thought about how Ding Ji had never contacted her in the 2 years since moving away from the Jiao family's courtyard. Xiao Dongliang, who had moved out earlier, was no different from a dead person and had not contacted her either. Without the elderly couple with her, Xiao Nan didn't have to worry about giving them a living allowance since Xiao Zijin wouldn't be able to take a single cent of that. Xiao Nan knew that she was jobless and was living off her savings. Even in such a pitiful state, Xiao Nan had never been concerned about her, much less provided her with a living allowance. The moment Ding Jiyi moved away, Xiao Nan seemed to have disappeared from her world too. Xiao Nan never tried to contact her, and neither was she ever able to reach Xiao Nan again. It could be said that Xiao Zijin had lost all three closed ones at the same time, and only her son, Chen Feng, was left by her side. Otherwise, Xiao Zijin wouldn't have felt so insecure to insist on going to the capital with Chen Feng. Thankfully, Xiao Zijin finally calmed down. She couldn't afford to act rashly and provoke Xiao Nan for the sake of her son. Forget it. She would keep the peace. She didn't dare to touch Xiao Nan's money. Chapter 2476, Mushy, 2. If she were to go to the capital with her son, it would cost her money to rent an apartment. Her meals incur expenses too. When added together, it was a significant sum. Xiao Nan wasn't willing to fork out money, and she couldn't possibly ask Shen Feng to pay for it. As a mother, she couldn't possibly ask her schooling son to pay for her expenses while she lazed around at home. In front of Xiao Nan and Ding Jiyi, Xiao Zijin lacked any sort of shame and normal worldviews. But Chen Feng was special. As long as it concerned Chen Feng and his money, Xiao Zijin's worldviews seemed to be much more normal. She couldn't spend Xiao Nan's money, wasn't willing to spend Chen Feng's money, and was reluctant to spend her own money. After giving it some thought, it seemed better for her to remain in Pingcheng. At the very least, she had a roof over her head that belonged to Chen Feng. He wouldn't demand rent from his own mother. As for her meals, the cost of living in Pingcheng was much lower than in the capital. Ever since Ding Jiyi moved away, Xiao Zijin had no choice but to learn to be independent, not just for her own sake but also for her son's. Over the past 2 years, Xiao Zijin had learned to cook and was no longer the same Xiao Zijin who relied solely on takeout. Indeed, Xiao Zijin had been living too comfortably in the past. If forced into a corner, there was nothing Xiao Zijin couldn't learn or do. Buying ingredients and whipping up meals at home saved a great deal of money. After making careful calculations, Xiao Zijin came to the conclusion of allowing Chen Feng to study alone in the capital after getting that promise from him. Even if Xiao Zijin wasn't tired from her own antics, her son, Chen Feng, couldn't help but feel exhausted on her behalf. Money was impressive indeed. It had changed Xiao Zijin's mind entirely. Leaving Xiao Zijin behind, Chen Feng had headed to the capital alone and had written Xiao Nan a letter using the address he had gotten from Xiao Zijin. He had even included his own number in the letter so that it would be easier for Xiao Nan to contact him. What made Chen Feng feel bitter was that the first thing that came out of his mouth wasn't asking how his auntie, Xiao Nan, was. Instead, he had to reassure Xiao Nan that his mom wouldn't make her way to the capital. Chen Feng sighed. He didn't have any words for his mother anymore. Okay. Xiao Nan replied with only a word. Your grandparents are intelligent. Of course, Xiao Nan knew that it was all thanks to father and mother Chen that Chen Feng had lived with Xiao Zijin for the past 2 years and was still able to face her so calmly. As for whether the grateful one was Xiao Nan or Chen Feng, it was hard to say. Auntie, I'm here to thank you. Thank you for giving me so much love and care while I was younger. And I'm sorry for all the hurt that people around me caused you. Of course, you don't have to reply to me. It's just that I'd feel bad not saying sorry. Lastly, you must live well and be happy. That was Chen Feng's obsession. Up until today, Chen Feng felt that it was entirely Xiao Nan's credit that he hadn't grown up astray even with his parents' influence. It was because Xiao Nan had given him sufficient love and care and had guided him to the right path that he hadn't been negatively influenced by his parents. Xiao Nan smiled coldly. Xiao Feng, You're a good kid. I hope you'll remain this way and not go astray. It hasn't been easy persisting until today. Since you're all grown up and have your own ideas and beliefs, remember to hold firm to them. Don't be easily swayed by others. By others, there was no doubt that it referred to Jiao Zijin, Chen Feng's biological mother. Apart from being excessively ambitious, Chen Jun was still relatively normal. Amongst everyone around Chen Feng, the most abnormal person was undoubtedly Jiao Zijin. It had truly not been easy for Chen Feng to grow up into the person he was today. It would be a pity for Chen Feng to be brought down by a rotten worm after blossoming into a healthy tree. Chen Feng was the first child that Jiao Nan had raised, after all, and Jiao Nan still had some feelings for him. You have my phone number. Keep it well and look for me if you face any problems in the capital. Chen Feng should have looked for Chen Jun instead, but ever since he had caught that illness, he was no longer able to fulfill his duties as a father. Jiao Zijin wanted to do so but lacked the brains and capabilities. If Chen Feng encountered any problems and sought advice from Jiao Zijin, it would probably make the situation even worse than how it started. In that way, the only one Chen Feng could depend on in case of trouble was his younger auntie, Jiao Nan. Auntie, I know you have 3 children. How do they look like? Chen Feng had been trying to hold his curiosity in but could no longer do so. He wanted to meet the triplets. A few years ago, Chen Feng had been overjoyed when Chen Jun said that he was going to marry Jiao Nan. He was waiting for his younger auntie to give him a younger sibling after becoming his mother once she married his father. Whether it was a boy or a girl, he would cherish them and take good care of them as an elder brother. In the end, he had indeed gotten younger brothers and a younger sister. Unfortunately, they were not Chen's and were only his cousins. The blow of not having been an elder brother had been quite a heavy one to Chen Feng. Even if they weren't his biological siblings, they were still his cousins. All right. Thankfully, Jiao Nan was a good mother. She had no shortage of photos and videos of her 3 children on her phone. Whenever she ran out of storage on her phone, Jiao Nan would meticulously archive them according to the years and transfer them onto her computer. That way, Jiao Nan had even more storage available, so she could continue taking more photos and videos. They're all grown up. Are they in primary school? Chen Feng was full of disbelief at the sight of the triplets' chubby faces. How could his younger siblings have grown up so quickly? He hadn't even seen them as babies sucking on milk. Chen Feng was full of regrets. While the triplets were still young, Chen Feng had been helpless and Chen Jun hadn't gotten into trouble yet. Even if Chen Feng wanted to, he had no way of getting in contact with Jiao Nan. Besides, because he had heard father and mother Chen talking about Jiao Nan, he had developed his own thoughts about her too. Chapter 2477, Mushy, 3. It wouldn't have been too good for him to have gotten in touch with Jiao Nan at that time. She would surely have gotten upset. Sigh. He had always thought that he would have plenty of time to do so after growing up. He had never expected his younger siblings to have grown up so quickly. They're still in kindergarten. After another year there, they'll be entering primary school. At the mention of her 3 children, Jiao Nan's gaze and tone became exceptionally tender and loving. Stroking San Bao's face through the phone, Chen Feng let out a delighted smile. She looks exactly like you. She's just as pretty. Her smile was as warm as the sunlight. Jiao Nan replied in annoyance, I gave birth to 3 children, but both De Bao and Er Bao look just like their father, especially De Bao. Er Bao resembled me while he was younger, but as he grew older, his face started to resemble his father's. Only San Bao's left now to comfort me a little. Jiao Nan was truly mad. She was the one who had carried the triplets for 10 months and was the one who had given birth to them. After giving birth to them, she had spent much more time with them than Zai Sheng had. The 3 children had practically seen her face all the time while growing up. But both her sons resembled Zai Sheng, and only her daughter, San Bao, resembled her. Xiao Nan felt like she had been taken advantage of. With Er Bao as an example, Xiao Nan was afraid that San Bao would follow in Er Bao's footsteps as she grew older and would start to resemble her father as well. If that was the case, Xiao Nan felt that she would probably vomit blood. She knew that the Zai family was strong and powerful. But did their genes have to be so domineering as well? Couldn't they leave a path for her too? At the mention of the triplets, Xiao Nan seemed to have completely let herself go. Not only did she talk to Chen Feng about how obedient the triplets were but also about times when they angered her. As a mother, it was only natural for her to be full of praise for her children in front of others. She could probably go on for 3 days and 3 nights. Thankfully, Chen Feng was no ordinary young man and was especially patient at times like this. What pleased Xiao Nan was that Chen Feng was truly concerned about the triplets and wanted to know more about them. That was why he listened especially intently. One spoke with exhilaration while the other listened intently. They made a good pair together. Who would believe that this auntie and nephew hadn't met each other in 6 to 7 years? By the time Xiao Nan finished and glanced at her watch, 2 hours had already passed. Xiao Nan picked up her cup and took a sip of water. Feng Feng, it's time for me to pick your younger siblings up. If we have a chance in the future, we can meet up again, or you can bring your siblings to the park to play. Xiao Nan didn't trust Chen Jun or Xiao Zijin, much less mother and father Chen. But she was still willing to let Chen Feng interact with her 3 children. After all, she believed that a child whom she brought up wouldn't be anything like Chen Jun or Xiao Zijin. Xiao Nan hoped that her decision wouldn't be wrong. All right. Chen Feng's eyes glimmered and he couldn't hide his excitement. Auntie, I should give my siblings something when I first meet them, right? Can you tell me what they like? As the inheritor and owner of all of the Chen family's assets, Chen Feng had never revealed any of this in front of Xiao Zijin. He lived simply as though the Chen family had not left much to him. But Chen Feng was clear about how much money he actually had. To be honest, even if he didn't study or work, he had enough to support him throughout his life. It was just that Chen Feng didn't fancy a life like that. He preferred earning his keep through his own hard work. Only a life like that would be meaningful and worth living. Even if it was hard, it would be worth it. Besides, only when one went through hardships would one cherish good times. Chen Feng had chosen an entirely different path from the one Xiao Zijin wanted. He had never exposed himself in front of Xiao Zijin, but now that he was in front of Xiao Nan, he had no intention of hiding it. He had money and could afford to buy many toys for his younger siblings. Da Bao and Er Bao like guns while San Bao likes cars and pretty skirts. San Bao was all grown up and wanted to act like a young lady and wear dresses. After San Bao had learned to express her own thoughts, Xiao Nan had started to fill San Bao's closet with more pretty little skirts. Under Xiao Nan's guidance, San Bao understood that she had to act more ladylike when she wore skirts and couldn't act too wildly. Otherwise, those skirts wouldn't look good on her. Oh. Okay. It would be easy to purchase toys for Da Bao and Er Bao, but he would have to spend some effort on pleasing Lady San Bao. Thankfully, Chen Feng had seen San Bao's outfits in Xiao Nan's videos and took it to heart. Chen Feng felt that he wouldn't stray too far off and would be able to get his little sister to like him as long as he bought a present according to San Bao's dressing in the video. Chen Feng had thorough plans, but reality threw him a curveball. It wasn't that the 3 children disliked the present that Chen Feng prepared for them. It was just that the 3 children only knew that they had an elder sister. They had no idea of the existence of an elder brother. The 3 children were extremely curious and interested in this elder brother, and they continuously pestered Xiao Nan with questions about how he looked like, whether he had a good temper, and whether he would like them. This was just like declaring war on Jiajia. Where had this rascal come from? How dare he steal her brothers and sisters' attention away from her? Jiajia was always kind to the triplets, and even Zihua felt jealous at the mention of it. Now that there was Chen Feng vying for her younger siblings' attention, Jia pretty much treated the triplets like her ancestors so as to win their hearts. She had only toned down slightly because Jiaonan had gotten angry over it. One was an elder brother whom they had never met, while the other was an elder sister who had watched them grow up and always played with them and bought them things. Between the two, it went without saying that the 3 children rushed to Jia without any hesitation. The 4 children were so close that it seemed excessively mushy. Chapter 2478, Wedding Things, 1. In an instant, Jia was surrounded by 3 bundles of joy who were shouting out her name and hugging her. She was over the moon, so much so that Zihua felt like punching her. Jia felt uneasy knowing that Jiaonan was bringing the 3 children out to meet their elder brother, Chen Feng. The children hadn't even met him, and yet, they were already so curious about him. If she didn't do something, she would surely lose her position in the triplets' hearts. Her younger siblings meant the world to her. Nothing was more important in this world. Besides, they were both university students in the capital and had similar vacation schedules. Since Chen Feng was free, that meant that Jia was too. They both lived in the capital, and of course, the moment she heard that there was an event, Jia unhesitatingly rushed her mother off to work. Then, she stayed by Jiaonan's side to meet this new elder brother with Jiaonan. Auntie! Chen Feng's eyes lit up warmly the moment he saw Jiaonan. When Chen Feng saw the 3 children carrying their backpacks walking over, his eyes lit up once again. Were these his younger auntie's children? They were adorable, especially his younger sister. She looked exactly like his auntie. Hello! Chen Feng rushed up to the 3 children and greeted them while bending down to their eye level. De Bao and Bao loved playing with older children, especially since Chen Feng was tall and muscular. Apart from their dad, Zai Sheng, Chen Feng was the tallest man they had seen. As such, De Bao and Bao were especially keen on getting to know this new elder brother. De Bao was silent, but Bao let go of De Bao's hand and walked up to Chen Feng. You're as tall as my dad. He can lift me very high. Can you? Is that so? Chen Feng had been young too, so he knew exactly what that meant. Thankfully, Chen Feng was not weak. Quite on the contrary, with a father like Chen Jun, Chen Feng had always placed emphasis on training his muscles. Not only did he have muscular arms, but he also had abs. It was rare to see a young person as toned as him. So, even though Bao was a little chubby and muscular, Chen Feng managed to lift Bao up over his own head. Bao kicked around in glee having been raised so high up. It's really high. Brother, you're really amazing. De Bao blinked and ran to Chen Feng's side. He tugged on Chen Feng's pants, wanting to have a go too. After throwing Bao up and down several times, Chen Feng put Bao down before raising De Bao up. He was really giving all he had to please his younger siblings and to gain their favor. San Bao was in a hurry and she stomped her foot. Mom, I want it too. I want it too. A frown appeared on Xiaonan's face. From time to time, her daughter made her feel as though she had raised 3 boys instead. Xiaonan had agreed to San Bao's request to dress up in a pretty dress to meet her elder brother, but just in case, Xiaonan had San Bao wear safety shorts under her dress. If you want to be raised high up, you won't be able to wear dresses when you go out in the future. Xiaonan looked at San Bao seriously. San Bao felt that it wasn't too good to be playing around while wearing a dress and could only nod obediently. She wouldn't make the same mistake again. After that discussion, Xiaonan finally let go of San Bao's hand. San Bao shouted excitedly as she rushed up to Chen Feng, asking him to raise her up as well. Having lifted all 3 children up, Chen Feng felt especially sore in his arms. But that was nothing as long as he could make his younger siblings happy and like him. What Chen Feng was thankful for was that he trained his body well regularly. His classmates and roommates could probably lift 1 child, but lifting 3 would probably kill them. Auntie. Having pacified his younger siblings, Chen Feng didn't forget his younger auntie whom he loved and respected. He held the hands of his younger siblings and was about to ask when they could play until when he saw a pretty young lady with a sour face standing by his auntie's side. She glared at him with hatred in her eyes. Chen Feng racked his brains to think if he had ever offended her. But Chen Feng couldn't bear to let go of his brother's soft hands and thus simply asked, "Do we know each other?" Jiajia's eyes grew even wider. Who wanted to get to know a person who was trying to snatch her siblings away from her? "I'm their elder sister." Jiajia immediately made her status known. Elder sister? Chen Feng glanced at Xiao Nan. He had never known that his auntie had given birth to 2 daughters. Besides, she looked about the same age as him. She couldn't possibly be his auntie's daughter. "She's Jiajia, my sister-in-law's daughter. I think she's 2 years older than you. You can call her sister Jiajia." Knowing that Chen Feng didn't recognize Jiajia, Xiao Nan quickly identified Jiajia. Oh, it was slightly difficult for him to address a young lady who was shorter than him as an elder sister. But as long as it would give him more chances to see his younger siblings, Chen Feng didn't mind doing so. "Hello, Sister Jiajia. I'm Chen Feng. I'm my auntie's nephew." "Humph." Jiajia harumphed. She knew that this rascal's mom wasn't any good. All she knew to do was bully her aunt. That was why Jiajia couldn't understand why Xiao Nan would let Chen Feng get in touch with the triplets. What if this boy was just as bad as his mom? She trusted her aunt, but not outsiders. "Brother, are you calling her elder sister too?" Bao looked curiously at Jiajia and Chen Feng. Chen Feng replied, "Yes, because Sister Jiajia is older than me. I'll address her as my elder sister, just like you guys do." Bao laughed. "Brother, carry me." His brother was tall, and when he carried him, he could see far into the distance. "No, carry me." Sanbao was upset. She wanted her brother to carry her too. How could Bao snatch her elder brother away from her? She was a lady. Jiajia walked up. "Sanbao, shall I carry you?" Without waiting for Sanbao's rejection, Xiao Nan interjected her children's childish demands. "What did I tell you before we left the house? You're already 5 years old. You're grown up and no longer little children. It's tiring to play with you, especially since you're all so heavy." Chapter 2479, Wedding Things, 2. "If you still insist on having someone carry you, I won't bring you out in the future." She couldn't indulge them in this habit all the time. The 3 children hadn't even started to play, and yet, they were already getting lazy and wanted others to carry them. Once they got tired, they would ask to be carried too. Of course, neither Jiajia nor Chen Feng would reject them. But she was the one taking care of the children most of the time. In order to lessen her own burden, she wouldn't allow the children to be carried while they were still able to walk. Bao and Sanbao pouted, not daring to kick up a fuss. They knew that their mom would be true to her words. If they went on with their antics, their mom would surely not bring them out to play in the future. Because something like that had happened before. It was exactly because they had suffered and learned their lessons that they knew that Xiao Nan was not joking. No matter how much they screamed and cried, Xiao Nan would never soften her heart. She would follow through with her words. For their own benefits, the 3 children dared not make any more noise. They would simply do as their mom said. "Auntie, they're so obedient." Chen Feng was stunned when he saw that the 3 children stopped messing around after Xiao Nan said only one sentence to them. They held each other's hands and stopped running around. Were all children as obedient as his younger siblings? He remembered that he wasn't as well behaved as a child. "All right, let's go. Let's bring them to the carousel first. Then, we can each take one of them and head over to the bumper cars." Xiao Nan didn't give any further explanation. After all, every child was different, and so were every parent's methods of raising their children. Xiaonan didn't want to give a generalized answer to Chen Feng just because of the triplets' behavior. Humph! It's all your fault that my younger siblings angered my auntie. When Xiaonan took the children and walked slightly away, Jia walked over to Chen Feng and criticized him. They're still young and don't know what's right or wrong. You can't always blindly coax them. You'll lead them astray. If you don't know how to be an elder brother, you'd better just stand by the side and observe how I behave as an elder sister. Her younger siblings lived in fear of her aunt. No one dared to go against her aunt. Even up until now, Jia couldn't understand why her siblings were so afraid of her aunt and why they were so obedient to her aunt. Her aunt was clearly the most reasonable and kindest person she had ever met. Her mom couldn't even compare to her aunt. Chen Feng, who had been criticized by Jia, didn't dare to rebuke her and guiltily stroked his nose. What did I do wrong? He didn't even realize that he had gotten his younger siblings in trouble. Auntie doesn't like them being too pampered. If one of them wants to be carried, then all three of them will want to be carried. Usually, she takes care of the three of them alone. If you inculcate this bad habit now, what would she do when you're not around? Jia had spent much more time around Xiaonan than Chen Feng, so she could guess what Xiaonan was worried about. Chen Feng felt remorseful. Thank you for telling me, Sister Jia. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have known where I went wrong. Thank you. When they had first met, Jia had already been fierce and unfriendly toward him. But what he remembered was Jia being willing to let him know of his mistakes so that he could correct them before his younger siblings made a habit of it and burdened his aunt in the future. Because of that, Chen Feng was especially sincere when thanking Jia. When he smiled, his handsome face looked simple and honest, angering Jia. Why are you smiling? Are you trying to show off your sparkling teeth? Hurry and catch up. We can take care of one each today. We don't have to fight with each other. Jia lightly kicked Chen Feng in the leg before jogging over to Xiaonan's side to buy tickets for the carousel. Seeing how Chen Feng was still foolishly standing there, Jia couldn't help but wave him over. Chen Feng let out a wide smile and ran toward Jia and his younger siblings. That was a smile Jia remembered clearly even years later. You're back. In the blink of an eye, another 5 years had passed, and the triplets had grown from little pumpkins into young adults. In another 2 years' time, they would graduate from primary school. After Xiaonan returned, Zai Sheng helped massage Xiaonan's shoulders so that she wouldn't feel so tense. Didn't I say that I could accompany you if you can't handle it on your own? Xiaonan was already a 50-year-old woman, and her strength had indeed deteriorated. Forget it. It's not like I have a choice since everything is happening together. Oh right, how are the children? Even adults couldn't stand consecutive blows, let alone the young and emotional triplets. No matter how good Zai Yaowai's and Miao Jing's mentalities were, they couldn't change the facts of nature. But what shocked everyone was how her father-in-law, Zai Yaowai, had passed on even earlier than Miao Jing. When Zai Yaowai had passed away, Miao Jing hadn't even shed a single tear. It was the 3 children who sobbed their eyes out. Perhaps, Zai Yaowai had said something to the 3 children before his death. That was why they surrounded her and constantly said, "Grandma, don't be sad. We'll spend more time with you in the future. Don't cry. We'll cry on your behalf." Miao Jing hadn't been in good health to begin with and couldn't withstand such drastic changes in her emotions. As such, the 3 children tried to spend as much time as possible with her to comfort her. Although Miao Jing had not cried, everyone could imagine Miao Jing's sadness in her heart. After all, her life partner had left her. After Zai Yaowai's funeral, everyone in the Zai family seemed to have lost weight. Even the triplets, who had never been able to lose their baby fats, seemed to have gotten much slimmer after the funeral. Not only had they lost weight, but Miao Jing had even started to fall ill more easily. After Zai Yaowai left, Miao Jing seemed to have lost all will and spirit. Even when she saw her most beloved grandchildren, Miaojing could no longer lift her spirits. Because of that, Zihua was in a panic and tried to think of several different ways of raising her spirits, almost recalling Jiajia, who had been abroad on exchange. Because she had been overseas, Jiajia hadn't been able to attend Zai Yaowai's funeral. If Miaojing couldn't hold on any longer, Zihua was afraid that Jiajia would miss both her grandparents' funerals. She would blame herself for her whole life for that. Chapter 2480, Wedding Things, 3. Thankfully, Xiaonan had managed to persuade her otherwise in the end. It was normal for her mother-in-law to feel uneasy and fall ill because her father-in-law had passed on. None of them had regained their senses from the incident, so how could they expect her mother-in-law to suddenly lift her spirits and live just as she had had in the past? How could she possibly care for her grandchildren? Thankfully, Miaojing's health improved over the span of a year. Only then did the three children finally start to feel assured. In the past, Miaojing had spent all her free time with the three children. Now, it was different. Whenever the children had some time, they would spend it with their grandmother, Miaojing, and think of ways of cheering her up. But this didn't last too long. In the second year after Zai Yaowai's death, Miaojing's body could no longer take the strain, and she followed Zai Yaowai and left as well. The three children had sobbed their hearts out the day Miaojing passed away. They knew that they would never get to see their grandma and grandpa who loved them so dearly ever again. Even the introverted De Bao's eyes had welled up with tears. Because of his character, he was unwilling to speak and simply stood silently in a corner. It was a pitiful sight. Logically speaking, the Zai family should have wholeheartedly arranged for Miaojing's funeral. But the very next day after Miaojing's death, Xiao Dongliang had passed on too. The moment Xiaonan received the news, she hurried down to Qingshui town to arrange for Xiao Dongliang's funeral. Although it was important to settle Miaojing's matters, they couldn't neglect Xiao Dongliang's either. In the end, the couple had no choice but to split the work between the two of them, with Zai Sheng handling Miaojing's funeral and Xiaonan heading over to Qingshui town to handle Xiao Dongliang's. It didn't seem right for Xiaonan to be going alone since their grandfather had passed away, after all. As such, Xiaonan decided to bring De Bao along with her. Jiajia and Chen Feng, who had both returned from studying abroad, were unable to regain their senses for a long time. Jiajia stayed in the capital to send her grandmother, Miaojing, off. While Chen Feng naturally followed Xiao Dongliang to take care of De Bao and send Xiao Dongliang off in Qingshui town. Because Xiao Dongliang's funeral had clashed with Miaojing's, Xiaonan and Zai Sheng had been exceptionally busy. As a result, the couple had been apart for almost half a year. By the time Xiaonan returned to the capital with Chen Feng, Zai Sheng felt that Xiaonan had lost even more weight, and his heart ached. "Don't just talk about me. You don't seem to be in a much better place than me. Mom and Dad aren't around anymore. It's just the children and us now. We have to live well." She was 50, and brother Zai was 55. The problem was that their children were only 10 years old this year. Xiaonan finally experienced the panic and worry that Miaojing had at that time. As parents, they were already at retirement age, but their children were still in primary school. Would she and Zai Sheng still have the ability to stand up for their children in the future when they ran into any trouble? "Don't worry. Our children are doing very well." It seems a little irresponsible to say that as parents, but it's true. Our children are indeed outstanding and can take good care of themselves. There's no need to stress yourself. None of us are wrong about it. If we were wrong, our children wouldn't have grown into the people they are today. Zai Sheng comforted Xiaonan as he hugged her. Probably all women worried about this when they reached a certain age. Zai Sheng had never seemed to have such worries. Zai Sheng was all too clear about his children's temper and abilities. Although they were still young, they were very sensible. If not for the fact that he had been holding them back, the children could very well have started middle school given their abilities. Zai Sheng had only stopped his children from expressing their true abilities for the sake of the elderly couple. Once they entered middle school, they would have much more homework to handle. Besides, most of the top middle schools in the capital were boarding schools. If the three children entered middle school too early, they would have less time to spend at home during the week. At that time, Zai Yaowai had left and Miaojing had only the three children left by her side. If the three children had all gone to a boarding school, they would have spent much less time with Miaojing. Zai Sheng wasn't sure how long more Miaojing would be able to live for if that were to happen. Thankfully, De Bao had already talked to Zai Sheng about this. The three children were intelligent and their abilities surpassed those of their peers. Given that situation, as well as the children's family background, their teachers had suggested the triplets skip grades and not waste time in the early grades. De Bao knew what would come if they were to move to middle school and thus rejected his teacher's suggestion. Then, he had even let his father know of his thoughts. "Dad, after Grandpa left, Grandma has only us by her side. We want to spend more time with Grandma, so we don't want to skip grades. Is that okay?" Since that had been Zai Sheng's initial plan, there was no reason for him to stand in the way if De Bao felt the same way too. "If that's what Bao and San Bao want to, Dad and Mom will respect your decision. It's alright even if you grow up slowly." De Bao was the eldest brother. As such, Bao and San Bao had immediately agreed to his suggestion. But now that Miaojing was no longer around, De Bao took up his responsibility as the eldest brother and told Bao and San Bao. "Grandma's no longer around, and Dad and Mom aren't young either. We have to grow up quickly. Only then will we be able to take care of them. I've decided to skip grades and enter middle school. What about you guys?" Without hesitation, Bao and San Bao did just as De Bao said. Having come to a consensus, De Bao let Zai Sheng know of their decision and asked for Zai Sheng's help to arrange for the test for them to skip grades. Zai Sheng knew of this matter, whereas Jiaonan remained unaware of it. Initially, Zai Sheng had intended to let Jiaonan know about it. But because Jiaonan felt too secure in Zai Sheng's embrace, they hadn't even chatted for long before Jiaonan fell asleep in Zai Sheng's arms. Zai Sheng lovingly planted a kiss on Jiaonan's lips before hugging her to sleep. The married couple was fast asleep, but there was another young couple who couldn't fall asleep and was even in the middle of a heated discussion. Jia stared wide-eyed at Chen Feng in anger. "So, why don't you give me an answer? With your mom's nonsense, are you planning on returning to Pingcheng, or are you going to bring your mom over?"